Hey, what's up, everybody? Hey, what's up, everybody? Um, I got something here from Lovely T talking about the tariffs and how the farming is going to affect it, how the tariffs are currently affecting farming. Even though Lovely T did this a couple weeks ago, we're beginning to see bits and pieces of that now. If you look at the ports, you'll see that the ports are empty. There's nothing going in, there's nothing going out. And this is really going to hit us hard soon. So I'm basically doing this to make y'all aware. And this is, I like to call episode 3 in the series of F Around and Find Out. Let's go. Right here.
My husband's a penny dropper.
And once more, shout to Lovely T for this.
Hey Tea Sippers, I hope you guys are doing good today. So I wanted to come out here and talk about a more serious topic. Some of you guys might be interested in this and some of you guys may not be, but it is what it is. Either way, I want to talk about this. So if you guys have not been keeping up with what's going on with the farming industry, with our food and how we eat, I suggest you pay attention to this video. So as we all know, Trump made
Be
a lot
right
of
back in a
executive
second.
orders in February. And one of those executive orders was basically a broken promise to over 30,000 farmers. They were denied U.S. aid funds. And so what happened is that basically a lot of farmers, they get this aid to help them, supplement their farms, whatever they're not able to sell here in America, they're able to ship overseas to, quote unquote, third world countries, to feed people over there. And it also helps pay for like farm equipment, solar panels, just things to help maintain their farm. This was a program in U.S. aid via the USDA. So this affected a lot of farmers who were approved through USDA to get the USAID subsidy. And so what ended up happening is that Trump had passed an executive order to basically freeze the funding to this USAID program, and it affected a lot of farmers. A lot of farmers who voted for him were on TikTok, upset, wanting help, not knowing where they were going to be getting, their aid and assistance from. And the interesting thing is that this really did not affect a lot of black farmers, because what a lot of people don't understand is that a lot of black farmers do not get these subsidies. They apply for them. It's very rare that they get approved. So a lot of them have been forced to literally pull themselves up by the bootstraps because they don't get a lot of government handouts like a lot of the white farmers. But now it's getting even worse, because what's going on now is that these tariffs are really messing up the farming industry. China has now come out and said that they are not fooling with us. They're not going to be buying any beef and pork from us. They're not buying any more soybean. And we are one of the largest exporters of soybean oil to China.
Yep.
So this is affecting a lot of farmers. A lot of them
Dang
are
it.
talking. They're making TikToks. They're going to the news. They're very upset. And a lot of black farmers are also now sounding the alarm, because this is going to have a direct effect on the people. And I have been saying this now for several months. And this is why I am taking my gardening seriously. And I want to give props to everyone in Discord that have joined the gardening room, and just all of the wealth of information that's being shared in there, all of the talk, the questions that are being answered, people helping each other out. It's very exciting to see people's, seedlings, had people posting pictures of their last year's harvest. It's such a wealth of information in the gardening and farming room, and I'm just so happy to see so many people join, because we have to understand how food grows. We have to be able to start stocking up, because shit is about to hit the fan. When you go to the
Yeah.
grocery store, you are seeing less and less product.
And the stuff
There's
is
not
hitting the
enough people
fan
buying
now.
the product. And at this point, these farmers can't even afford to plant a lot of stuff. So a lot of things are dying because they're not being picked. They're not getting paid. The money's not coming in. People are on the verge of losing their farms. So it's getting real. Now, one of my Discorders posted this video. Her name is Afro Curly Samurai. And she posted a TikTok of a black farmer who reached out to another TikToker, basically wanting to tell what she's seeing on her end and how this is going to affect everyone. It's a 14-minute video, but we're going to watch that. I'm also going to include some news clips and everything else. I also have videos of John Boyd. He's a really dope farmer. John Boyd is a fourth-generation farmer, and he is also the president of the National Black Farmers Association. So he's been sounding the alarm for a while. I watched a really interesting interview with him a few months ago on Democracy Now! And also Don Lemon also interviewed with him. And he made it clear that a lot of this U.S. aid subsidy did not go to black farmers. Black farmers have had to find other ways to help sustain their farms. Well, now he's also talking about the tariffs and how it's affecting all farmers as well. So I'm going to be posting some videos of him in here also. Another thing that's also affecting the farmer is that 80% of our potash that's used to fertilize crops, it comes from Canada. We're beefing with Canada, and they are the largest suppliers of potash, especially here to the United States. And so because of the tariffs and the back and forth, because Canada said they're not removing the tariffs. They're not playing this back and forth game. So even though Trump paused the global tariffs on, Canada and Mexico, they're not pausing their tariffs on us. They're tired of the yo-yoing, they're tired of the back and forth. So they are keeping their tariffs. And so that is going to cause things like potash and other things to be more expensive that are coming in from Canada, but we need the potash because that is how we grow our food. So this is an insane situation, but I want my tea sippers to be informed. This is why I do videos like this periodically. I'm here for the celebrity gossip and tea, but y'all know I'm more interested in real life, topics. That's really what I delve into. I'm a researcher, and that's what we talk about on Discord is real life topics. So I wanted to kind of tell, my public platform what's going on too. I don't want to just keep this in the Discord because I have people who are not in the Discord who don't know how all this stuff is going to be affecting us. So I suggest that you start stocking up, start learning gardening, buying seeds, getting with friends. You know what I'm saying? Maybe you have friends who grow a certain crop, you grow a different crop, and then you guys can trade and swap and stuff like that. I have signed up for a community gardening program. I told you guys about that earlier in the month, and we start in about a week. And so I've been getting all my seedlings together. My kitchen area has literally turned into an entire home garden, and I love it. I love it. So it's been an amazing experience. I'm also learning how to make bread from scratch. So I just don't want to depend too much on grocery stores for everything. So things that I can learn myself to do, I'm definitely going to start doing that and implementing that in my home. And I suggest you guys do that as well. So without further ado, let me go ahead and play some of these clips and videos for you guys, and I'll come back with my final commentary.
We are very concerned about the current outlook. As a soybean farmer, we are dependent on trade. Right at 50% of the soybeans produced in the United States are exported. China takes more of our soybeans than all other foreign customers combined. So they're a major part of our market, and this trade war is very concerning to us right now.
Tell us a little bit more about that impact on you in this trade war with China and how it's already dealing a blow to your family business.
Well, the ag economy in general is already in a tough spot. The last couple of years, prices have declined. Soybeans are now 40% from where they were 3 years ago. Cost of production are higher. Interest rates are higher. The overall farm economy is struggling. And then we had a trade war with our biggest customer, and it's going to result in lower prices. And quite frankly, there's not much room for error right now in the budgets. We're looking at basically losses for the upcoming year if commodity prices don't improve. And it's not just my family, it's families all across this country. There's 500,000 farmers that raise soybeans in the United States, and we're all in the same boat. We desperately need to get something rectified quickly with China, our biggest export customer. And we want to encourage the administration to get a proactive trade deal done. Let's get a phase 2 type deal done that's good for us and good for the country as a whole, rectify some of the issues we've had with trade and other issues, and move forward and be positive instead of building barriers with tariffs.
The administration is saying, hang on, be patient. But given what you just laid out, how much patience can you afford right now?
Well, Pamela, right now we're planting a crop that looks like it will be produced at a loss. And by fall, when the soybeans are harvested and ready to sell, we're going to need a drastic improvement in our markets, or it's going to get even tougher for farm families all across this country. That trickles down to our rural communities. Our rural communities are a lot of folks across this country, and that impacts small business, that impacts just the whole infrastructure within our communities. It's not just our farm families. We want to keep this nation strong. We're the backbone of America. And I know the president has said he loves farmers. I believe he does. I think he's trying to do what's right for this country. But we do want to make sure that our voice is heard and realize that we got to make sure that we survive through these tough times. And we're going to need an improvement in our prices, and that's by having strong demand for the products we produce. We want to have good markets, and we want to have opportunities, and that's what we need.
A farmer who voted for Donald Trump is now begging Donald Trump to stop his trade war. Here is a photo of a farmer who went on CNN to quite literally beg Donald Trump to stop his tariffs, which are clearly impacting this farmer's livelihood and his business. But my message to this farmer is, were you not paying attention to the entire 2024 election cycle when people like me and millions of others were warning that Donald Trump's tariffs would impact you and your industry specifically? Were you not paying attention to all of the times Kamala Harris went to every single state in America and told you 100 times that Donald Trump's trade war would decimate particularly red states? So, I don't know. I used to have sympathy and empathy for these people. I don't want anyone to lose their business. Yet at the same time, how can you feel that for someone who voted for their own demise after they were warned
Exactly.
times that it would happen, but went on to do it anyway? This is fat.
Fuck that. Joe Biden already bailed you guys out the first fucking time because Donald Trump screwed you over his first term in office. You guys seen what the fuck he did to you, and then you voted him back in again?
Yep.
You think that we're supposed to have some sympathy points, or you going on CNN crying because he's fucking your shit up again? Really? Get the fuck out of here with that shit. The farmers in motherfucking Nebraska, Wisconsin, all of these states that are being affected, and they're trying to come on social media and the news stations crying now for sympathy points because they fucked themselves over by voting for this orange little bitch. Nah, it's too late for that shit now. Suck it the fuck up and struggle for the next 4 years.
Oh, I'm a soybean farmer that voted for Trump, and I'm begging him to stop this trade war. Oh, look at you. You're so different. You're so strong. You're so brave. See, you're like a 10th generation soybean farmer, and apparently the president of, like, the American Soybean Farmers Association. You know that last time he was in office, soybean farmers lost $20 billion because of his tariffs. And our tax money had to bail you out. And you fucking voted for him again. And now you're like,
Yeah, they
oh,
did.
I'm begging him, please stop. This was in Project 2025. Hello? So fucking tired of you people. I saw a video of the cheese lady, the cheese slice lady. Saw a video of her, like, at a store pointing to cheese and saying, haha, see, some of us can laugh at ourselves. Fuck you. Right. Fucking glaring red flag. You ignored all of it. And now you're like, I'm a soybean farmer and I'm begging him, please stop doing exactly what you said you were gonna fucking do. Oh, I'm the cheese lady. I'm the cheese lady. See, I can laugh at myself. Obviously, I got tricked, but I can laugh at myself. There are people whose lives have truly, truly been impacted by his fucking whims. Cheese lady, we don't need you to laugh at yourself. We need you to fucking apologize. What, soybean farmer? We need you to say, I am such an asshole. It was crystal clear. He said, I'm going to do this to you. And I'm like, when? Fucking apologize to the whole country.
They're the largest tariffs in a century. They're larger than the Smoot-Hawley tariffs, which many people say directly contributed to the Great Depression. Does that worry you? Of course, those concerns are in the back of my mind, but as we've already alluded to, we're optimists. We do a lot of praying. We have a lot of faith, and our faith is in God and not in administration.
In agriculture, there's about 85% of what happens on my farm that is completely out of my control.
Yeah.
So I have to do the very best I can at managing that 15% of inputs and costs and labor and marketing and signing the best contract and doing the best job that I can, and leave the other 85% up to the good Lord. And that's all we can do.
That's all you can do.
A disease or a hailstorm or a pandemic or administration, and we just weather the storm.
In North Carolina, every year we prepare for a major hurricane.
Right.
You know, every 3 or 4 years something drastic is going to happen.
Yeah.
So we're used and we're accustomed to that. Now it's just that much more challenging that we got to get through it and know how to weather this economic storm.
This is the thing I think that confounds people. You're talking about acts of God, acts of nature, hurricanes, rainstorms. This isn't that. This is a person in the White House making decisions. Does that frustrate you?
In the world now, we need certainty and we need consistency. And we, like Brandon said earlier, we've got to have trade. All of our markets are depressed right now, and the only way to really succumb to that is we've got to be sending stuff on boats going across the seas.
Yeah, but I think that's also where part of not just, the president comes into play, but I think that's where also a lot of the cabinets of staff and all the people that he has, and also, all your other department agencies come into play and making sure we have those relationships.
Do you think the president has that?
I mean, I think he knows he's got people in place, and I'm hoping that that's what he can rely on.
I would rather face this trade war than a Category 4 or 5 storm coming off the coast of Wilmington straight towards you.
American farmers overwhelmingly voted for Donald Trump in this past election, and they're about to have an FAFO moment. As background, American farmers export $15.2 billion in soybeans to China every single year. And now, because of Donald Trump's tariffs, these farmers are in big trouble. 8 out of the 10 states that produce the most soybeans that are exported to China voted for Donald Trump. The last time Donald Trump was in office, the agriculture sector lost $27 billion as a result of his previous tariffs. As a result of Donald Trump's previous rounds of tariffs in 2018, China began to seek alternative sources for soybeans outside the United States. Since 2018, China has developed a strong relationship with Brazil, accounting for 73% of all soybean exports from the country. China's purchase of soybeans from Brazil has now skyrocketed this year, and it is expected that they will replace the United States and all of the farmers who depend upon those exports in the near future.
Has some late breaking news. China now gets all its soybeans from Brazil because of Donald Trump's tariffs. So you got to think, how much money did the United States lose over this? How much taxable income did the United States lose? So now Brazil is China's #1 importer for these soybeans. They're getting it all from Brazil. So how do you think this is hurting the American people? Because of Donald Trump's tariffs, China does not rely on the United States for this product. So basically, the farmers are losing, and the workers and everyone else involved in the soybean industry, which is also people who deliver, transport. So it's a big chain, and they're all losing. So, Mr. Trump, I bet Brazil is absolutely thankful for what you did.
Tonight, many of America's farmers already feeling the pinch are worried about the possibility of more challenges. That's because President Trump is threatening to deport millions of undocumented immigrants, creating uncertainty about the future of the workforce.
It takes a lot of hands to hand harvest fruits and vegetables.
Talk to any farmer, and they'll tell you it's difficult work.
Yeah. This is a 24-hour job, so I need people who are willing to work in shifts at different times of the day.
But it's hard to find those people.
Yeah.
American farms are on the decline. There was a 7% 7% drop in farms from 2017 to 2022, according to the USDA. That's about 142,000 fewer farms in just 5 years. These days, farmers are up against bird flu outbreaks, higher costs for feed and fertilizer, and climate change. But their livelihoods depend on a reliable workforce. And now they're concerned about how President Trump's campaign promise to launch the largest deportation effort in American history will play out. About 2/3 of crop workers are foreign-born. And while many come to the U.S. for seasonal jobs legally through H-2A visas, the USDA estimates that 42% of crop laborers are undocumented. New Jersey farmer Kurt Alstead says his workers are all legally authorized, but he's watching closely to see what Trump does next.
When we talk about the ripple effects of a potential mass deportation, labor is already hard enough to find as is. Could it be even more difficult to find across the board if that does happen?
Well, there's no question in the United States we have a shrinking workforce. Anything that happens from a policy standpoint that reduces people in our workforce is going to make it very difficult for industry, and certainly for agriculture. We would be in big trouble if we lost workforce.
The labor union, United Farm Workers, has already seen an uptick in migrants asking for help.
The threats are scary, but at the same time, farm workers more than anyone understand the reality that without them, this work is not going to get done.
And fewer workers could mean less homegrown produce, according to University of Montana economist Diane Charlton.
But will consumers see higher prices if there are these mass deportations?
Maybe to a certain extent, consumers might not see a really big impact in the grocery stores, but there will be less domestically grown fruits and vegetables.
Does that mean more farms could go belly up?
Definitely.
It's still unclear exactly how Trump's mass deportation plan would affect farm workers. We reached out to the Trump team, which reiterated the president's commitment to deporting migrant criminals.
According to the Department of Agriculture, more than 40% of the country's farm workers are undocumented. In tonight's In Depth, Camila Montoya Galvez traveled to a dairy farm in Wisconsin to report on the tension between cheap labor and the Trump administration's immigration crackdown.
Down this road in Wamandi, Wisconsin, population 500, lies John Rosno's farm. He's a fifth-generation farmer who owns more than 900 acres and more than 600 dairy cows.
It takes one person for every 40, 45 cows.
And who is doing all of this work?
I would say about 90% is done by immigrants.
Immigrants like Kevin, who was born in central Mexico and crossed the U.S. border illegally when he was 18. Now 21, Kevin is among the 11 million undocumented migrants living in the U.S. More than 10,000 of them work on Wisconsin dairy farms.
What kind of work do you do here on the farm? ¿Qué trabajo haces aquí en la granja? Alimentar y también limpiar los corrales.
You feed the cows and you clean the barns too. Kevin, who did not provide his last name during our interview, says he often works 12 hours a day, 6 days a week, sometimes starting as early as 3 a.m. But the pay is better than back home.
Does your family depend on your salary here in the U.S.?
My mother and my siblings, of course. But since I have my dad here, he also sends them money. Nationally, more than half the workers in the dairy industry are undocumented. Like Kevin, many leave behind loved ones for wages that are below what American workers get.
Some people would be saying that you could be right now hiring American workers to do this job, and that the only reason you're not doing that is because you can pay immigrants less. How would you respond to that?
If I hired Americans to do the work, I would have to pay probably about $100,000 a year per person, and they would only work 40, 50 hours a week. I would be out of business within 6 months. I couldn't afford it. If the price of milk was, or like a gallon of milk cost $10 in the store, then I could probably do that.
The new administration is already following through on its promise to deport the undocumented.
What would happen to your farm and to your business if they are all sent back to their home country?
If that would happen, I'm out of business.
Yeah, he would go belly up.
It would take long.
Rosno fears the future. Kevin does not.
Hace 4 años yo estuve aquí en...
4 years ago, when he was president, he said, I am going to deport everyone, but it never happened. Sometimes we would watch the news and we would see that a family was deported and we were scared to go out and buy groceries. But I have not felt fear since then. A fear he hopes he'll never feel again. Camilo Montoya Galvez, CBS News, Wamonte, Wisconsin.
President Trump's policies in these early days of his second term are creating uncertainty across the country. Cuts he's making in foreign food aid could have a major impact in America's heartland, where much of the food is grown. Nicole Killian reports from Larned, Kansas.
John Dryden's family has farmed in western Kansas for more than a century. He grows wheat, corn, soybeans, and sorghum, or milo.
We may switch to more corn dry land acres, just knowing there's usually always a market for corn.
So you may grow corn instead of milo?
More corn than milo, yes.
Since USAID's Food for Peace program has been suspended, there is virtually no market for milo, according to Kim Barnes.
This is the milo that you're talking about.
Milo product. They make flour out of it. It goes into pet food, ethanol. You eat it.
He's with the Pawnee County Co-op that purchases grain from farmers including Dryden. Now, instead of selling it, he's storing it.
When you're sitting here on 1.7 million bushels of Milo, I kind of like to see it move on to the next step, especially when we have people in the world that are hungry.
So while this program is paused, what are you doing?
Well, right now I'm turning over every rock I can find.
Until he finds buyers, he's worried the co-op and the community may take a loss.
The person downtown's not going to sell any furniture. The grocery stores are going to be affected. People just aren't going to buy.
But Dryden is still going to farm.
We're throwing punches all the time, basically. Drought, hailstorms, insects. This is just another punch.
How many more punches can you take?
I don't know.
I'm Skyler Henry in Fitzgerald, Georgia, where cuts in Washington to USAID are threatening this rural economy.
What's the cost of one box?
One box is about $40.
Mark Moore is the CEO of the nonprofit Manna Nutrition, which makes a peanut paste to feed starving kids in war zones and famines.
If the system stops, it's to catch back up. It'll cost not just time, but lives, thousands, if not tens of thousands of lives.
What Moore makes is pretty simple. Take peanuts, blend it with milk, sugar, and vitamins. The result might not look like much, but he says it can work miracles. But not while the federal contract is counted on for years.
Yeah, hold on.
We're on, they were off, they were back on again.
He says he received a stop work order on January 29th, then told to resume 8 days later. Then had his contracts canceled. And late Sunday, they were reinstated again. And with 130 employees, Manna is one of the top employers in Ben Hill County, 3 hours outside of Atlanta.
My first priority is my people.
Jason Holt is the mayor of Fitzgerald.
Manna is a 2- or 3-fold contributor to our economy. They purchase raw products, they employ people, and they serve a great humanitarian purpose.
What's your hope?
I hope they continue to grow.
For Mayor Holt, keeping the economy healthy here is personal.
I have a graduating senior coming up. He has a path in mind. He would like to come home, and I want Fitzgerald to be here for him to come home too.
And Skyler Henry joins us now from Atlanta, Georgia. Skyler, this isn't just about one product or one company. Give us a sense of some of the ripple effects here.
Yeah, John, this is many farmers in many states. Manna says that it relies, or it can get a supply from as many as 27 states, but they really rely on a handful, and that is milk from Michigan and Texas. They get their sugar from Louisiana and Florida, and then they obviously get their peanuts from right here in Georgia. All of those farmers would have to find alternative places to send their products.
In the trade war, Canada and China fired the latest shots today. The province of Ontario put a 25% surcharge on electricity sales to Michigan, Minnesota, and New York. Ed O'Keefe will have more about that from Ottawa.
But first, China slapped an additional 15% import tax on American farm products, including pork, poultry, beef, and soybeans. And Lana Zach is in the heart of farm country, Mount Vernon, Iowa.
These are all beef cows.
Tim Keegan calls himself a pretty basic Iowa farmer. His family's been working the land in Mount Vernon, a few hours east of Des Moines, for generations. Their livelihood comes from corn, soybeans, and a small herd of 150 cows. How high are the stakes for you?
It's tough because within agriculture, I mean, we essentially get one chance a year to raise a crop and market that crop and sell that crop.
You don't have like 5 different harvests.
No, it's not like we're a factory where we're constantly putting out widgets every day and we can make a change and the widget's going to come out cheaper or different the next day. So we're forced to be a lot more forward thinking, just the nature of our business.
China is the largest overseas market for many U.S. farm products. Last year, the U.S. exported nearly $13 billion worth of soybeans from farmers like Keegan to China alone, and another $1.5 billion in beef. Now, import tariffs up to 15% from China are hitting cash crops.
I think people within agriculture are hoping that some of this is, these tariffs and stuff will be short-term from a negotiation standpoint. And if they are long-term, they will have some pretty big impacts within the industry.
41 years later, we're still here.
But Mount Vernon's mayor, Thomas Weasler, says even short-term tariffs on the town's farmers could send shockwaves through the economy.
We need them to be successful and on every level. We need a thriving agricultural community. Otherwise, there's a gap in what we provide to our citizens here. It will ripple down through our main street, through our community, and it'll affect.
We want to get rid of illegal immigrants, quit eating. And that's for everybody. That's, nationwide. If you want to get rid of them, quit eating. That'll solve the problem.
But when only 5 pickers showed up this morning to harvest his sweet potatoes, farmer Keith Smith saw possible ruin, the loss of his $500,000 crop.
They're running scared because of this new law. And you're in trouble. I'm in trouble, bad trouble.
Smith's 200 acres need 20 pickers, mostly Mexican nationals.
There is not enough documented people here to supply that workforce.
Most of your workers are here illegally.
Sure. If they got documentation, they got a better job working for me.
Fernando Aldeman, a Mexican national, has worked Smith's farm since 1992. Everybody's just scared.
Yeah.
Now, are you here legally? No.
No.
So, are you scared?
Yeah, I'm scared. I'm scared,
Smith's pickers make about $100 a day. He supports immigration laws, just not this one that threatens his third-generation family.
Just a helpful reminder from a soil geologist. And Venus, my pup. Right now, a lot of the crops around the country are rotting in their fields because the migrants aren't picking them. So what this does actually is it ruins that soil. It strips the soil of its nutrients as those crops rot. It makes the soil less fertile, and it means that the yields produced after that are much lower or won't even produce at all. So this is a multifaceted issue. This means that not only will we not be able to harvest crops at the same level, the same yield as we have been, it also means that the prices for these crops are going to increase, so American-made foods will be more expensive, on top of Mexican and Canadian imported foods that are now more expensive. Overall, food prices are going to go much higher. Ask any food scientist, or just most scientists that work in agricultural or soil fields. This is the best advice I can give to you right now. Take every bit of money that you can, even if you have to max out your credit cards. I do not say that lightly. I would never in a million years think that I would have to recommend this. Go out, buy as much non-perishable food as you can. If you can invest in a standalone freezer, do that to buy a lot of frozen food. Go to Costco.
Stock up on food, stock up on toiletries, stock up on cleaning products. Cause the storm is coming. Let me sit up and say this. Everything that this woman's saying is actual factual. A storm is coming. Stock up on food, stock up on toiletries, stock up on cleaning supplies. That is it. That is all. Also, if you know how to garden, if you know how to farm a little bit, I would suggest if you know how to do that, go back to them roots. Thank you. Let me continue.
Wholesale the amount of food that you can right now, you need to really take this seriously. This is not a joke. This is not a drill.
It's not.
If you're gonna ever listen to a scientist, now is the time. Okay? So get as much food as you can. SNAP benefits are being cut. Food banks are getting cut. This means that you will not have a recourse. You will have to start begging your neighbors for food, and they may not have any food to give you. This was a purposeful, I think, thing to do to the American people. And get the food you can now, as much as you can.
So y'all, AM, PM staffing service posted this on Facebook because they were looking for farm pickers. And these are the terms right here. The comments, I'm going to show y'all some of the comments. The comments, Lord have mercy.
Do you want to successfully pass your part one?
Ever since this administration picked a fight with China, China basically said F you and stopped buying a significant amount of
It sure
beef
did.
from Nebraska and soybean from Iowa, which is the two biggest exports of those states, and they rely heavily on China to...
Whether we like it or not, we are currently in our F around and find out season. Again, we are in the season of F around and find out. With these tariffs, with immigration, with God knows what else is going on. Unfortunately, it is what it is.
Make money, essentially. And China is their biggest buyer of these two products. Now, Iowa has a special relationship with the president of China, Xi Jinping, who was a foreign exchange student in the agricultural education program in Iowa and stayed in Muscatine for a little bit. So he learned a lot when he was in the state of Iowa. But now that relationship has basically gone to shit because of this administration. And now China is no longer buying soybeans. And now the relationship of international students who go to the University of Iowa and Iowa State are also on the line, which I'll talk about in a different video. But for the state of Nebraska, beef is the biggest export that they have, and especially China being one of their biggest buyers. Now, if you remember, the state of Nebraska stated that they were going to be in a $4 million deficit this year for their budget. And now that's probably a very higher number than initially stated, because now China is no longer buying beef from Nebraska, which is their biggest export, and they're their biggest buyers. And now these cattle ranchers and these farmers are now flipping out and freaking out because their biggest buyer is no longer buying it. Who are they going to sell it to? And unfortunately, They voted for this. Do I feel bad? Not really, because you should have known never to pick a fight with China. China is not backing down. They don't need us. We need them. These
Talk
farmers
about
are
it.
not going to make it.
Talk
They're
about
gonna
it.
be broke and bankrupt.
Never seen El Super this empty. So many empty bins.
Mm.
I asked the produce guy where's all the produce, and he said we don't have any product. I asked if the truck was late, he just shrugged.
Empty shelves, an unusual scene in a normally stocked warehouse.
Mm.
What we were expecting to be about 55 tractor trailers worth of food, and we just heard a couple of weeks ago that half of those will no longer be on their way to us.
I want to know how some of these Costco's, BJ's, and Sam's Clubs are looking right now. I wonder about that.
These vacant racks stand out in Washington, D.C.'s capital area food bank. A 123,000 square foot building where staff store inventory and pull orders for delivery to more than 400 regional partners. Rada Mathia is the food bank's president and CEO. She says the recent USDA cuts made a deep impact here. 670,000 meals worth of food that we now have to scramble to look for other sources of food to be able to try and at least partially bridge that gap. I understand evaluating these programs. Every administration does that. We're happy to share data, client testimonials on the impact of these programs on working adults, on children who are able to focus more on school, on seniors who can combine this with food with medication that they need. In February, food banks nationwide began noticing canceled USDA deliveries in their systems. The funding freeze comes after the Trump administration cut 2 other programs that provide aid to food banks and schools. Agriculture Secretary Brooke Rollins defended the cuts on Fox News.
Right now, from what we are viewing, that program was non-essential. It was an effort by the left to continue spending taxpayer dollars that were not necessary.
Republican lawmakers are also considering cuts to the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or SNAP, previously known as food stamps. Last year, about 42 million people used the program. In a statement to the NewsHour, a USDA spokesperson said the USDA has not and will not lose focus on its core mission of strengthening food security, supporting agricultural markets, and ensuring access to nutritious foods. The agency also noted a recent approval of $261 million in purchases of fruits, vegetables, and tree nuts to food banks.
This is an extraordinarily serious moment for food banks all across the United States.
Vince Hall is the Chief Government Relations Officer for Feeding America, a nationwide network of more than 60,000 food pantries and distributors. He says an end to pandemic-era aid, rising inflation, and stagnant wages has led to record high demand at food banks.
Over the last couple of weeks, we've heard some really bad news, frankly, from the USDA. The first piece of bad news was that the LFPA program, the Local Food Purchase Assistance Program, has been discontinued. And so we had planned to bring in about 1 million pounds of food this year through that program. And it was just beautiful, locally grown, fresh produce, also some ground meat, great product. And so that program is ending completely June 30th. In addition to that, there's been other food from small local farmers paid for with the same source of dollars. Suddenly on Tuesday, 20 loads of that product were canceled.
Oh, jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is.
And that was product that we were expecting to arrive between April and July, so starting next month. That product, which is worth about $1 million, 500,000 pounds of product, will not be coming in. And it's food that's really important for our community, and it's food that will be very expensive to try to replace with donated dollars.
Mm-mm.
Were you ready for this?
All
Alright guys, I didn't really want to have to get on here and do this, but I had to. These are fiberglass steaks right here. There's big, bulky steaks on the back of the truck, wooden steaks. I called 2 weeks ago to get a quote on these fiberglass steaks because we need some more steaks this year. I got a quote, 83 cents. I called the man this morning. I said, hey, I know these tariffs are crazy and everything going on. I said, what can you do me on those fiberglass steaks now if we needed a load? It's a 3-month ETA from the time you place the order. He said, Taylor, he said, you don't want to hear this price that I'm about to give you. I said, well, give it to me anyways. He said, each of those steaks now is going to be $1.74 a piece. And I said, well, you know, and I know both that we can't do that, and that's going to be impossible. So that's just to let you know a little bit of what we're going through out here on our farm and what farmers in general are going through. These tariffs, not the best thing for our country. I voted for Trump.
Start off by saying I did vote for Donald Trump. We are possibly going to lose our farm if NRCS doesn't hold up their contract with us on the EQIP program. So the reason that they're not...
It sounds to me, sir, you fucked around and found out.
Our EQIP program, which is cost sharing on fences, waters, a well, and some seedings, was funded by the Inflation Reduction Act. Because of the executive orders, there's a pause or a freeze on the funding through the Inflation Reduction Act, and they're not able to pay out on the stuff that we completed or anything going forward. I'm not the only one this is affecting. So there are other farmers in the comments saying that they're in the same boat that I'm in because they signed these contracts, and the contracts, even like, so whenever I looked into the contract, I made sure that that funding was set aside. It wasn't funding that, oh, we hope it's there whenever it's done. I made sure that that funding was set aside so that way before I made these business decisions, I knew that funding was there per contract. So they're backing out on the contract because they don't have the funding, they can't release the funds. I need your help to save my farm and many other farms.
This farmer right here is a Trump voter who just found out that money he put into a program that he was told he was going to get back from the government has disappeared.
Sounds to me the guy that voted for Trump fucked around and found out. That's what it sounded like to me. You effed around, you found out, and now you screwed yourself. Congratulations, sir. You played yourself.
Because of Trump's executive orders, he doesn't know when he's going to get the money, and if he doesn't get the money, he will lose his farm, is what he said. And I have a response from a Republican congressman when shown his problem that is absolutely abysmal. All of that coming already. First off, look at how excited this man is when he found out that he was approved for a government grant that would provide him the money he needs to invest in his farm. This is what the government is for. This is what the government is for. Donald Trump and Elon Musk are destroying this, but this is what it's about, helping people get ahead.
Hell yeah! $25,000. We got water up here finally, so no more water trailers up here. We're gonna freaking water the cows automatically. We ordered the 13 waters to go across the farm, and
I know this is a stupid question. Sir, I know this is a stupid question, but the way I remember it, back in the day, the old school farmers had rain barrels. Why did you, as a farmer, not have rain barrels? I'm just asking.
Unfortunately, this on cost sharing, so we're not paying for the whole thing, but we still have like $10,000 out of pocket on this well, so that really sucks. But we're out here, pretty good ways off the road, $25,000 pumping water top the hill. Like I said before, if you guys have any questions on that cost sharing with NRCS, please let me know. I am happy to help. I'm happy to spread the word on it. They're not allowed to advertise it. That's part of the deal. So if you guys have any questions on it, please let me know. They are giving us $240,000 worth of cost sharing on putting 40,000 feet of fence out on our property. We're putting a well in. We're putting 13 waters in. We're doing some seedings out here with some warm season grasses. But if you guys are interested in doing any of this on your place, it's a federal program. You don't have to have it in certain states. You can do it on the state side also, but this is one that
Livelihoods are at stake, says every soybean farmer that voted for Trump but has had a family farm for 200 years that's been government subsidized and bailed out. Now you're growing soybeans, which is not really bought domestically as much as overseas, which is totally fine, except you've really not been doing anything for America. You've only been working for corporations, and now that you voted against your best interests and the best interests of people that don't share your skin color, you're like, hey, more socialism, please. And when I I show you the big reveal, Caleb Ragland, when you see him, are you going to be like, oh, I didn't know farmers looked like that, farmers that voted for Trump? Or are you going to be like, there's Caleb, I don't know, let's see. 1, 2, 3. Give us our country back. No more money, dude. You're clearly not smart enough to use it. How many millions do you need from our government, the taxpayers, before you can run your business on your own and you don't scream to the government for more help when stuff goes wrong? Did you know that we all deal with economic ups and downs without getting handouts like that? Did you know that most businesses don't get millions from the government? We actually have to figure it out. And now that you guys are trying to take Social Security from grannies and grandmas and grandpas, I guess there's twice as many $70 a day, and they don't deserve it, but you want more, even though you've not been able to do this for hundreds of years. You've needed help and more money. And is that the face of a guy that's going to get it this time? I don't.
Well, America's farmers are as much a symbol of our country as the Stars and Stripes, and arguably just as important. They put food on our tables, clothes on our backs. But for black farmers, the road has been rough, leading to the loss of millions of acres of farmland and a lack of trust. And now one of the very symbols of America, now in a fight with the federal government.
Yep.
We're quietly, one by one, losing our farms.
Me and Doug just dropped the news saying Cedar Grove. I'm about to see what it smells like. So ordered this brand new stick. Never smelled it before.
One by one, losing our farms.
It's a problem facing tens of thousands of struggling black farmers in America.
We were 1 million black farmers, family strong in this country, tilling 20 million acres of land. And today we're down to 50,000 black farmers. So we're facing extinction.
John Boyd Jr. is the founder and president of the National Black Farmers Association. He says more than a century of admitted racism within the U.S. Department of Agriculture, including refusing to process loans from farmers of color and foreclosing more quickly on minority farmers, resulted in the loss of roughly 15 million acres of land, worth an estimated $300 billion. The result, a $5 billion lawsuit against the federal government to honor its promise to make it right.
Many black farmers were even deterred from applying for assistance at USDA. I personally had my loan torn up and tossed in a trash can right in front of me. I've been spat on by the person who's supposed to be lending me money, and I've been called racial epithets like it was a commonplace from the lending officer at USDA.
And the U.S. government admitted wrongdoing. In 2021, Congress approved $5 billion in debt relief for thousands of farmers of color. The money was included in the $1.9 trillion COVID-19 stimulus package, the American Rescue Plan Act. But before the money could be paid out, white farmers in several different states filed lawsuits, arguing the program violated their rights, calling it reverse discrimination, and prompting judges to halt the program. One of those farmers, Texas Agriculture Commissioner Sid Miller, who called the debt relief unconstitutional.
It was racist. You know, it was based on skin color, not on need or economically disadvantaged. Look, I'm for minority farmers getting help if they need it. But this gave help whether they needed it or not. And it's excluded all the other races, which is just, it's just plain racist.
Look at the history of the USDA debt relief offered to white farmers. Look at what the Trump administration offered to subsidies and direct debt relief and administration of money to white farmers in the last 4 years. And you look at less than 1% went to black farmers. Now, is that not racism? Why is it only when black people are going to get benefits from the government do we call it racism?
Civil rights attorney Ben Crump is fighting back on behalf of Boyd and 3 other plaintiffs, filing a class action lawsuit against the federal government, saying it broke a binding contract to pay 16,000 farmers of color $4 billion in debt relief, money allocated to wipe out 100% of debt with the USDA and an additional 20% to pay off the taxes owed. But that money was never paid.
We hope to bind the federal government to their promise that was made contractually with the black farmers. We hope to make up for 40 acres of a mule that were denied to black farmers and black soldiers and black people over 150 years ago.
So that lawsuit is pending in the U.S. Court of Federal Claims. Meanwhile, the USDA says litigation likely would have continued for years if they had not changed the laws, leading Congress to amend the bill to include all farmers in distress. That proposal allocates more than $3 billion to USDA-backed loans and $2 billion to farmers who the agency discriminated against.
Corn, agricultural product coming into America, and our farmers starting on April 2nd. May be a little bit of an adjustment period, but our farmers are going to have a field day right now. So to our farmers, have a lot of fun. I love you too.
If you're a large corporate farm, an adjustment period may mean one thing. If you're a small to medium-sized family farmer, it may mean something completely separate. President Trump has said, as you just heard, that his tariffs will ultimately accrue to the benefit of America's farmers. It's a pledge he reiterated this morning, posting on Truth Social, and I quote, "Our farmers are great, but because of their greatness, they're always put on the front line with our adversaries, such as China. Whenever there is a trade negotiation, or, in this case, importantly, he says, a trade war." John Boyd joins me now. He's the president of the National Black Farmers Association. John, it's great to see you. Thanks for joining us. To my point, this idea of an adjustment period. If you're a large corporate farm, that means one thing. If you're a small to medium-sized family farmer, that means something completely different. Am I right about that?
Yes, and the President's Trade Board has put America's farmers in a pathway of complete destruction. It's planting season, and farmers should be planting their crops, but instead, the President is playing footsie with China. And recently, the beef industry, China was purchasing beef. They're now going to be purchasing that from Australia. That's $2.5 billion out of America's pockets. Recently, China purchased a large soybean order from Brazil. That's money out of America's farmers' pockets right now. So the president said in that speech that you just shown, farmers go out and have fun. There's nothing fun about losing your farm. And we have farmers on the line that are on the brink of complete failure. And right now, every time the president says the word tariff, the price drops and the markets drop for farmers. Farmers are price takers, not price givers. So we have to sell corn, wheat, and soybeans based on what the markets are. We don't set the markets. And the president is causing havoc every time he says the word tariff, the prices drop, and bankers don't want to extend credit to America's farmers. For the first time in a very, very long time, I don't have a farm operating loan, and it's planting season because the bankers are telling me, boy, we can't lend you money based on the poor market price at $9 for soybeans and $5 for wheat and $4 for corn. So the president should put some things in place to protect America's farmers now, provide emergency loans for farmers right now, and none of this on the back burner like this put us in a pathway of destruction with the farmers didn't do this, the president did this.
And John, as I understand it, even before the tariff conversation initiated by President Trump, farmers were stressed out by weather havoc, lower than expected commodity prices, and other issues.
Equipment prices, and the tariffs are going to make farm equipment go up because the steel is caught up in that. Farmers are now in the pathway of slow getting parts. We rely on parts that come from some of these other regions of the country to keep our tractors going and combines and harvesters and planters. All of the things that affect everybody affect us first, and then it's passed on to the actual consumer.
hydration, deep wrinkles, dehydration, and density. Also, the patent-pending Exosim technology formula protects and nourishes the skin's barrier. Volulift revives skin for a visible, radiant, and younger-looking complexion. Don't tell Bella and Izzy this, but they actually get Sundays for their treats, and they have no idea because they love it so much. Me and my girl are here to tell you about these gorgeous morsels of air-dried, human-grade dog food. It does smell so good to me. I totally understand. Yummy! What we love about Sundays is they take pride in their dog food.
30 to 45 days to plant our crops. We have to get them in the ground. And farmers are calling us every day here at the MBFA. Said, boy, I'm planting my crops. I sit this one out. It's complete havoc. It's complete, where farmers just don't know certainty right now. It's the word that I'm looking for with America's farmers. And the president should come out and make a national speech to kind of calm the waters here and bring farmers to the table, have a discussion at the White House, and engage us. Instead, we're learning about things from CBS News and other news outlets instead of engaging us and having us at the table. The Agriculture Secretary hasn't reached out to the MBFA to have a meeting, a sit-down meeting to talk about any of these concerns that I'm laying out to you. So right now we feel like we're the gambling card on the table, and it should be the other way around.
John Boyd, I appreciate your perspective. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you for having me.
The Supreme Court rejected today the Trump administration's effort to keep frozen billions of dollars in foreign aid that had already been approved by Congress. Today's ruling might only be a temporary setback for the administration. The court did not give a timeline for when the money must be released, sending the issue back to the lower courts. Back in January, the president moved to freeze billions of dollars in foreign aid from the State Department and USAID, causing aid programs around the world to ground to a halt. But the effects are also being felt closer to home by farmers who relied on USAID to purchase their product and distribute it overseas. Our Shimon Prokupes has more.
That's why I do it. Look, we feed people, and that's a good feeling. What I produce here, I stand behind my crop. I don't produce anything on my farm that I wouldn't eat. Matter of fact, I'll show you. I'll choose some soybeans for you. Let me taste it. Look. I'm going right here on my farm.
What does it taste like?
It tastes like McDonald's hamburger.
No.
Yeah. That's what's in it.
John Boyd Jr. is a fourth-generation farmer. He grows wheat, corn, and soybeans here on his 1,000-acre farm in Southern Virginia. He also founded the National Black Farmers Association, and he's no fan of President Donald Trump.
The president casts a net of uncertainty. Every time he makes one of these wild announcements that people are saying, yay, tariffs to China, tariffs to Mexico, tariffs to Canada, USAID, it's over, it's done. Every time he makes those type of drastic announcements, he affects America's farmers.
Within days of taking office, President Trump dismantled USAID, a humanitarian program that's been a lifeline for the most vulnerable around the world, and a critical source of income for U.S. farmers, paying them hundreds of millions of dollars a year for their crops. He also froze some funding for farmers and trade markets.
We take it totally for granted. And what we're doing in this country right now, we're gambling with all that.
Gambling with farmers.
Gambling with farmers' lives. They're gambling with my life. They're gambling with my livelihood, man.
Farmers like Boyd rely on loans to plant for the upcoming season, with the hope that the harvest will pay it off and bring home some profit. In fact, about 1 million American farmers rely on the USDA for financial assistance every year. But just days before planting season starts, Boyd says he hasn't been able to get a loan yet. And he says he's not the only one.
They want you to show them on paper how you're good for that operating loan and how you're going to pay it back. I can't pay it back with $8 beans and $6 beans and $3 corn.
The majority of grain exported from the United States is stored in grain elevators. In Kansas alone, one grain elevator can export millions of dollars of goods.
This is in Pawnee County in Kansas.
is a grain elevator site. This is where farmers will bring their grain, stuff that they've harvested, like milo and wheat and soybean and corn. It is stored in these bins, these large concrete bins, and then sold to exporters, companies who are willing to buy that. And right now, it is very difficult to move some of this stuff.
They can come in and sell wheat for $5.58. It was down 14 cents today.
Kim Barnes has been buying and selling each year's harvest for Kansas farmers for over 50 years.
All these bins are full, and they're full of milo.
That's $5 million worth of grain, Barnes says. Grain that countries like Ethiopia and others depend on for food aid. And so what's going on with the milo? Why do you have so much of that right now? What are you seeing in the market?
We just don't have any market for it. There's nobody wanting to buy it.
5 months ago, Barnes says USAID bought over 200 million metric tons of milo from American farmers. Today, with no market for that grain, he's desperate. One potential lifeline, a proposal in Washington for the USDA to continue USAID's food distribution program. You're optimistic that the USAID stuff will get moved into the USDA and the program will get...
And will go on.
And the program will get...
And will go on.
But John Boyd doesn't share that optimism. He's not just worried about the future of farming, but for the future of his own farm.
I have 4 children, and I know that my kids have watched me scuffle, throughout my career. And they're not going to want to do this if this administration continues to make it more difficult than it already is.
The discrimination that I faced at USDA was in-your-face discrimination. I was sat on with tobacco juice running down my shirt on one particular application with the lender, who was a federal employee who was employed by government, sat on me. I was called the N-word from the same official. I had my application torn up and thrown in a trash can in front of me. On average, it took 387 days to process a black farmer's loan request. Less than 30 days to process a white farmer's loan request.
Sell our crop and have a decent life like everybody else. But if they would just leave it alone.
This trade war is going to impact literally every corner of the country. Some of those who are most uncertain about what this is going to mean is those in agriculture and farming, like here, corn and soybean farmers and pork producers. Where does this trade war end?
I don't know where it ends. I hope it ends soon.
What is your message to the Trump administration?
Just stay out of it. I mean, if they would just leave it alone and let the free market do its job, everything would be okay.
This is going to be so far-reaching, not just because of the Trump administration's tariffs of goods imported into the United States, but it's about the question marks in the days ahead about the retaliatory tariffs that the likes of China, Canada, potentially Mexico, and Europe are going to place on U.S. goods that are either produced, like corn and soybeans, or manufactured and sent overseas.
In his joint address to Congress, he said he loves farmers, is his exact words, or something like that, to that effect. And here the very people that, in this case, 99% Don, of white farmers voted for this president, are the very first persons in line to get affected by this president. He came right in, imposing tariffs and threatening tariffs and really causing a state of emergency for farmers in this country. Really chaotic the way he does it. One day the tariffs are on, the next day they are off. But what it does for the American farmers and black farmers is it plays with the market. All the 3 major commodities in this country, corn, wheat, and soybeans. He threatens tariffs to Mexico, which is the #1 purchaser of U.S. grown corn. He threatened tariffs to China, the #1 purchaser of U.S. grown soybean production in this country, and I raised both of those commodities. And right now, the price is down based on all the rhetoric from the president and the issues at the United States Department of Agriculture, where the president came in and said there'd be immediate relief, day one help for America's farmers. $30 billion
lies dormant at USDA, not moving, and it's the beginning of planting season for American farmers.
Yeah. But bottom line, what does that mean to you? And then we'll talk about black farmers specifically. What does that mean for farmers in general? You said they're the first in line. You mean the first in line to be affected negatively by these tariffs?
First in line to be affected negatively, excuse me, now, and the very first people that the president took aim at was his base in all of these red states. I want to be clear. These are people that had baseboard signs out here in the southern part of Virginia with Trump. These farmers held rallies and meetings on their farms, and he went after them quickly and used them as a ploy, a bargaining ploy with these other countries, not even taking into effect of what he would be causing them and their farming operation. Don, if you don't get farm operating loans and you have poor price commodities on corn, wheat, and soybeans, you wind up in foreclosure or on the auction block. So the president said in his speech, there's going to be a few bumps in the road, and just give him a little time. Farmers don't have time. Now, we have the beginning of planting season, which is right now, and then we have harvest. We have to get those 2 times correct, and there's very little margin of error for planting season. And farmers don't have operating loans in place because the government has frozen programs at USDA. They came right in, Don, this president did, and fired everybody at USDA that had anything to do with equity, DEI. All those people went on day one. Totally erasing 4 decades of work that I put into getting those positions there at USDA. He came right in without the involvement of Congress and totally sent all those people home with some nasty email and a one-pager.
This is my old one. This right here is why I will never, ever, 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 ever buy a loofah again. And I used to buy loofahs every time I went to the store. You guys, I got a stud scribber last year. I'm still using the same one. I just got this one for my sister because I'm going to tell you right now, this thing is absolutely amazing.
And totally sent all those people home with some nasty email and a one-pager.
Why is that important that people know what you're talking about? What you're talking about right now?
It's important because USDA has never been a friend to America's black farmers. The reason why we got DEI is because we had master farmers, my daddy called himself, that wasn't being able to get loans on time. 387 days on average for USDA to process a black farmer's loan request. Less than 30 days done to process a white farm loan request. I've been spat on by the county person there who's supposed to be making us loans. I've been called the N-word. And in the 80s, we still had to come in the back door way after integration down. A line of us would be lined up out there, and we all knew each other, and we never spoke about how poorly we were being treated by USDA. So here's a real agency who's never lent us any money, put our farms in inventory and pretty much gave them to white farmers for a penny on the dime. And now this president comes in and says everything is going to be about merit. We don't need the Office of Civil Rights. We don't need a civil rights director in each agency. We don't need any of those things. USDA is going to make itself good on its own. That's why it's very important to have those positions there. Watchdog, where farmers who've been treated badly, we can file a formal complaint and at least go through that process. This president came in and said we don't need any of that stuff. So it's like the Wild Wild West, and he threw all of this stuff up on the wall so fast, Don, that he didn't give the American people enough time to react. I think white people that supported him are even in great shock that as this president came in and just dismantled America by its core roots.
Is no longer importing soybeans or beef from the U.S. What's going to happen next? Farmers in Indiana and Nebraska and other states in the country are going to lose their farms. And when they do, corporations are going to buy up that land. The tariffs aren't bringing industry back to the U.S. Tariffs are not going to help small businesses.
No.
Tariffs are not going to help farmers. Tariffs are going to help corporations and more rich people. Like
corporations and help people get richer.
Keep cheering it on because you're cheering on your own demise.
Hey, my people, so the shit has already hit the fan.
So, you know, right now it's food storage for long term, right? So, we got to be practicing, you know, got to figure out how we can have lots of food storage for a long period of time. According to the crisis that hit us here in the United States, you notice the farmers have already sound the alarm, right? So the alarm is already out there. The farmers are saying, hey, you guys need to stock up. This is a problem. We're not able to produce this. We're not able to export that, right? So look at this. These things grow very easily. So what we do, we start growing them, right? Planting them, right? Whatever you have at home, right? That you can grow, you can plant quite easy. Go ahead and do so. Start it. Right? Stack up on your beans. Stack up on your cans of food. Stack up on your products. Listen, I'm not the only one saying it. The farmers are saying it. Listen, when the alarm sounds, don't be deaf to what's going on. Don't act like you're blind to what's going on. Go get it right now. Stop.
So I have a black woman farmer that's in my Facebook network, and she came over to my page and she was telling me how she's been helping people get prepared because of what is coming down the pipeline. She says she's not trying to alarm anybody, but things are about to get scary. Actually, she said it's beyond scary. I asked her if she would jump into my Facebook inbox, and she did. And she left me a series of 1-minute clips, 1-minute voice notes. And I screen recorded all of these voice notes and I clipped them together to make a video. So if you hear these pauses, that's because she's making these 1-minute long voice clips, and she talks very deliberately. But I have put this together. This is what she is seeing from the farmer side, so the supplier side. She's also talking about what's going on as far as subsidies goes, what she's seeing as far as the truckers who are bringing the food there. So if you care anything about what is going on, if you want to at least hear it out, you know, you might be weary, you might not care, you might not think that this is truthful, but please just listen. Take it in for what it's worth and drop a comment. Let me know what you think.
Hey Ash. Yeah, so what I'm going to tell you is actually like insider stuff. I don't have actual stats on me. It's just stuff that people tell me when I go to meetings and things like that. So feel free to share it with your YouTube page and let people know what's going on. But you already know how people are, right? Unless they see something physical, they're going to argue with you. They want to go back and forth. They're going to ask you for a source. So just tell them, look, I'm friends with the farm girl in Pennsylvania. She goes to private meetings and she's telling me what's going on in her neck of the woods. And just leave it at that, because people are just getting on my nerves at this point. So basically, here goes. Donald Trump rescinded the umbrella of the Department of Agriculture. So basically the umbrella includes SNAP EBT, something called Farm to School breakfast and lunch program.
Yep.
WIC, which is for women and children.
Women and small children, yep.
They get cereal, they get grain cereal, and they get milk. He rescinded something called which is a farmers program that they give to senior citizens that are low income. And he's cutting Meals on Wheels.
Who the hell cuts Meals on Wheels? But a dickhead.
As well as church pantries all across the nation. This is something I know for a fact because I do business with them. You can tell your followers how this is going to impact this entire country, because what a lot of people don't understand is, I'm just going to use WIC as an example. Most people think that WIC, which is Women, Children, and Infants, right, was implemented because they want women to get milk. But that is not the case. WIC was originally put into place so that farmers could get subsidies for growing grain. That's why when you are on WIC, you can get all that rice cereal, cornmeal cereal, oatmeal cereal, and things like that. And it was also put into place so that the farmers can get paid for their dairy. That's the reason why when mommies are on WIC, they get so much milk. I mean, jugs and that they don't even know what to do with the milk. So they end up making cheese, they make yogurt. Sometimes they just give it away because they don't know what to do with all that dairy and all that cereal. The fact that they're helping single mothers and mothers who are in need is just like gravy. They're doing it so that the farmers can get paid. And farmers get paid by something called farm subsidies, okay? That is a welfare program, all right? And it's funny because MAGA hates socialism, but they don't mind getting subsidies, which is welfare, as long as it benefits them. Now, because he cut all of these programs, not only are senior citizens going to suffer, farm to school is going to suffer because all the funds are frozen. Farmers are not going to be able to grow enough produce to give to those schools, to give to EPT, to give to WIC, because there's no funding for them anymore. And something that a lot of people don't know is that when you have a farm, you have to plan one season ahead. So these people are not.
The body pod. It's insane. It's so good. Let me tell you about it.
Okay, so anytime you jump on it, it sends an electric current through your entire body.
It shows your body fat, how much body water you have, your bone mass, protein rate.
I literally see my muscle mass increase and my fat percentage drop. And that's much more motivating than just watching the scale. The app is easy to use, and it's been very helpful in keeping me motivated.
It literally gives you an entire map of your body. Weighing myself doesn't have to be this big, scary thing. With BodyPod, I can focus on if I am healthy or am I not. Very comparable to those in-body machines, the super machines that you see at gyms. You guys, it's amazing. It is 98% as accurate as the in-body scan, which you can only get done at a gym. And
I've seen so many fitness coaches using this, so I had to give it a shot. Love it. So get it and try it, because it's awesome.
They're not getting their subsidy check, which is welfare. So they are in arrears. They don't have the money. They've already spent thousands upon thousands and hundreds of thousands of dollars buying lumber, buying farm animals, buying everything that they're going to need, and getting contractors to come over to their property, but they cannot have access to their funds, so their funds are frozen. Now, what this is going to end up doing, of course, is it's going to be like a humongous crash, because one system is completely dependent on the other. And it's the exact same thing with the big name commercial food companies like Sodexo. Do you know what I'm saying? There's a company called Sodexo. I think they might have been bought out by Cisco. Don't quote me on that, I'm not 100% sure. Sodexo also requires the farmers to work with them. They actually hire farmers to give them food. And this is what people rely on, like in a hospital system. The food comes from these major companies. And when the farmers are not getting their checks and they can't do what they need to do, these other corporations are not going to be able to feed people. So it's going to have a horrendous snowball effect on our society. We are not going to be able to recover from this. So now, here is what the truck drivers are now saying. I don't know anything about truck driving, So I'm just going to give you the simplistic of it. So when a truck driver is called by dispatch to go pick up a load, it's called a load, right? That load has to be weighed, and I think it goes by the ton. I have been told in my private meetings that the loads are getting lighter and lighter and lighter. And what that means in layman's terms is that there's just not a lot of food that's being distributed throughout food pantries, schools, neighborhoods, hospital systems, etc. So even the truck drivers are saying that something is definitely wrong because they're not getting a lot of loads. When I was in the meeting,
this thing here is over an hour.
Of how the companies that they work for are putting more stress on them. So they're going to have to drive for longer periods of time with less breaks. And that's putting a strain on them, and it's putting a strain on the company. So basically, the gist of all of this is this, okay? Our system is based upon socialism. Whether these MAGA Republicans want to admit it or not, it's based upon socialism and it's based upon welfare, and we all participate in it. The fact that they voted for this man to cut and to rescind all of these socialist programs, they think that they're hurting us. Their racism makes them believe that it's only black people and people of color that are going to get hurt by his policies. But the truth is, black people have never benefited from any of these things, including DEI. I can tell you as a farmer that I've never gotten one grant. Every single affirmative action initiative that has ever been implemented in my world has gone to a white female farmer or a white veteran farmer. We have never benefited from DEI. We've never benefited from any of these programs. And because black people as a whole have never benefited from anything, we've had to pull ourselves up by our bootstraps and make do with very little. Like myself, I have to make do with what little I do have. So I talked it over with my family the other night, and I think we're going to be able to weather the storm because we've been weathering the storm. No one has been helping us. No one has been giving us anything. The people that are not going to make it are white people, because they're the ones that have been getting the handouts and all the benefits all along. So they're going to suffer from this the most. I think it's kind of funny when you think about it, because they cut off their nose to spite their face.
Yep.
But here's what I'm going to tell you so that you can tell your viewers on YouTube. What is happening now is not a joke. It's not something to giggle and pass off as being funny, or she's just, she's trying to make a mountain out of a molehill. This is very serious. Start stocking up now as quickly as you possibly can. If you have an extra $1 or $2, every time that you go food shopping, grab a couple of cans of food and start putting it away.
Yep.
Get your friends together and start a garden in your backyard. One person can grow just tomatoes, the other can grow just cucumbers, and so on and so forth. And then when your crops have come to fruition, then you can go food shopping in each other's backyard. Get a plan of action together so that one person is skilled with medical training, one person is skilled with holistic training, another person knows how to hunt, another one can fish. Start putting together whatever it is that you can put together so that you can build a community with people that you trust, because in my humble opinion, and this is just an opinion, I'm just telling you what I'm seeing, when things don't crash by the ending of this year towards Christmas, it is going to be an absolute miracle from God. And that's the God's honest truth.
Yeah.
Anyway, thanks for listening to my little story. I hope your viewers are going to take this seriously. Like I said, I don't have statistics because I go to the meetings, I hear what's going on behind the scenes. I know about the cuts to the food pantry. I know about the cuts to Meals on Wheels. People are getting laid off from all of these programs. So I can't prove it, you know, for people that's going to want to come for me. I can't prove it, but I can only tell you what I'm seeing and what I'm hearing. So I hope that you will take heed and just get your homes prepared. So good luck to everybody. Thanks a lot, Ash.
Alright, so you guys just watched all of those clips that I was able to find and put together. And I really love the fact that a lot of black farmers are speaking out. You know, this is what systematic racism looks like. You know, a lot of people act like it's a figment of black folks' imagination.
No, it's not.
This is exactly what it looks like. That is what everything that John Boyd is saying. That is what this black female farmer is saying as well. You know, a lot of these loans and subsidies and these programs, they're not available to black farmers. They don't get approved for them. You know, their loans take longer if they do get approved. So it's a lot of systemic things that are going on in the farming industry, and I'm glad that it's now being talked about openly because it is April and this is planting season, and I think by the time summer gets here, it's going to get a lot worse food-wise.
Yeah, it's going to be worse by 1st of June.
Video together for you guys because I thought it was very important to just make you guys aware of what's coming down the pipeline. So with that being said, tea sippers, I look forward to reading your comments down below. Please hit this video.